Very, very happy to be talking on this subject of destiny and karma and destiny. These two things usually people think about. Well, it's either one or the other, and here we're looking at paradox. In fact, spirituality, when we first encounter it, we see a certain angle on it, which is quite clear, quite, we can say the large brush strokes. But as we continue with our practice and our study, we start zooming in and we start seeing the details. And this is where we have to deal with the paradox. And also we have to deal with things which are not what we expect. We hear that, everything is wonderful, everything is marvelous, and it is, but wonderful and marvelous is not the same as pleasant. And people generally think wonderful and marvelous means pleasant, but in fact, we need to look at the large picture in which there are all the different shades from the most brilliant to the darkest. Because it's about contrast, it's about the unexpected, it's about really shifting to a consciousness which is not the same as how we were raised, how we are told by the media, by the world, by family, by friends, by school. It is not really like that. And so people get upset when they see things that are unpleasant or when they experience things that are unpleasant. They don't really know how to transform it. So this power of transformation, as well as the power of being a detached observer, is really very essential when we're looking at this big and detailed picture. So put yourself in the middle of the picture, and the picture is the whole world. You're in the middle, and you have your own karma and you have your own destiny. And surrounding you, there is all the karma and the different destinies of all the other people in the world. So that's very different from yours. Then there's a third level, and that is the destiny, and I think we won't say karma for that, the destiny of the big wide world. And people do want to know the future, and nobody can know the future in detail, but you can understand the trends. And so for this, I think it's very useful to look at the nature of trends. So what we're looking at is this large context. So keep yourself together with yourself in the middle of the picture, and you are engaged in an inquiry into spirituality, a practice of spirituality, and your motivation would be something like, I'm here to become a better me, or I'm here to become the best me that there is, or I'm here to know what's going on and why it's going on. And the answer to all those questions is contained in this balance, this paradox of karma and destiny. So in some ways, we could say that karma is what you do, And destiny is what happens to you. But that's very broad strokes. Karma, I think, the most interesting part of karma is what is going on in your mind. And the importance of spiritual practice is that it's asking us again and again to go within and feel the self as the inner light, the inner being within this frame of the physical body. And so there you are inside this body, which is similar to a robot in many ways. And you are the energy that decides what's going to happen through this physical frame, this robot, which is your body. But the real you is a very, very subtle being, which is consciousness, and it is intangible. And this consciousness that you are has taken many births, usually. People who haven't taken many births tend to be less interested in spiritual things, and people who've taken more births tend to be more interested. And I do make a difference between a religious approach to these things as compared with a spiritual approach. A spiritual approach may be a bit more philosophical, and it's also a bit more to do with intuition and an internal sense of who you are in relationship with the people, places, and things in your life. So there is a big play going on, a very, very complicated, enormous play. And this play has a script. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it is the stream of the big events in the history of humanity. And you are someone in that. And you don't know who you are in the angle of the totality of all your time here on this earth. So broad strokes are like this. As soon as you arrive on the earth, you are at your best. And as time goes on, the soul itself gradually ages and gradually loses power. So by the time you get to the present time, which is a very important moment in the big drama of human destiny, this is a time when, in general, almost everyone is very spiritually depleted. The people who have been in the play for a long, long time, who have had many births, the difference between their state of spiritual enlightenment, their state of spiritual power, and the present state is a very big difference because you've been here for a long time. And people who have come more recently, the difference between how they were when they first arrived and how they are now will also be very big, but it's been a very sharp decline from the high to the low. Now, we have been trained in school and everywhere that we're in a process of evolution, we're in a process of progress, and everything is supposed to be getting better and better. But when you look around, you remember the good old days. You say it seems to be getting worse and worse. And so you have a clash between the ideas about the progress of a human experience in the context of time and then the reality of what you're perceiving. And so in spirituality, we take a look at these two completely opposing ideas, and we see that there is something else going on, which I think is very interesting to bring into the equation. At the present time, in spirituality, we look at time as cyclical, not linear. So in cyclical time, everything goes round and around. In linear time, everything is going in a long line, coming from who knows where and going to who knows where. It's just a long line that you're somewhere in the middle of, and you don't have contact with the beginning or the end. In cyclical time, it's different, because in cyclical time, you can look backwards or forwards and arrive at a connection between the past and the future. So if you look forward a very, very long time, you arrive at yesterday. And if you look back a very, very long time, you arrive at tomorrow. And in between yesterday and tomorrow is here and now. So this concept of time, cyclical time or linear time, is something that changes your perspective. So here, what we're doing is considering the perspective of cyclical time, which means that you can understand tomorrow and yesterday, going all the way forwards to yesterday, going all the way backwards to tomorrow. So these are different ways of thinking about time. So here you are in the present moment, and you have arrived at the present moment with the effects of your karma from who knows how many births. And you don't know what you have done over how much time. What you do know is how you are today. And you can understand better how you are today when you go inside and feel yourself. So here you're looking at a sense of identity. So spirituality tells us that your sense of identity can be perceived better and more authentically from deep within. And so this is why meditation is very helpful, because meditation is a practice of turning within and, in a sense, withdrawing your energy from the external and connecting yourself to yourself in the internal dimension. And this is good for a number of things. One thing is, when you connect with the external, then your mind is filled with your sense perceptions. And your sense perceptions is like tons and tons of images and sounds and events and memories and so on, which are all reflecting you to yourself from the outside and telling you this is who you are. Whereas when you turn within and you go to connect yourself to yourself on the inside, and you're looking at your sense perceptions in a way that you might look at, say, a big wall big wall with lots and lots of TV screens on it, and all kinds of different channels playing, and all those things are a good metaphor for what's coming at you from the outside. But as soon as you step back from that, you put a distance between who you are and what's going on the outside. And when you don't put that distance, then what's going on the outside is invasive, and it takes over your sense of self, and it becomes who you are. And this is where some of the ideas of psychology talk to us about how an individual is created by their experiences. And that is the case when you are externally oriented. And so there's a kind of bombardment. And from time to time, you will ask yourself the question, why is this happening? Or why is this happening to me? Or stop the world, I want to get off. It's too much, things like that. And so you lose your sense of self in the midst of this sensory overload and bombardment, which is why people find it nice to go to the woods, go sit by the beach, watch the water flow by in a river, look at the night sky or the clouds passing by, because it connects you with something more slow, more eternal, and that actually corresponds better to who you are. And so spirituality means create a distance between who you are and what's going on around you, such that you don't have a knee-jerk reaction and allow yourself to be defined by your life experience. And so then look at that in the question of karma and destiny. Why is something happening? There are times when it's because of your karma. There are times when it's just the story, it's the script, it's destiny. Then there are other times when it is like a lesson or a message or an opportunity to look behind appearances and see something which is much closer to a reality, a hidden reality. And how do you do that? Well, practicing to be on the inside is a good first step, and creating this distance between what's going on around you and who you are. So when you turn within, you're creating this separation between yourself and your endless screens with all these shows going on. And none of them are you, you see. Very often people think, well, one of them is me, and we have to find out which one is the real me. No, none of them are you. All of them are pieces of theatre, 3D video. It's a bit like landing in one of these video games in some sort of avatar without having the controls in your hand. And so we want to have control of our lives. And there are some things we don't have control over. Those are destiny. Whatever is in destiny, it's also called predestination. It's already there. And in spirituality, what we learn is consider yourself to be an actor. You're in this big 3D film, and all the other people are also actors. And the actual person is usually pretty different from the performance. Just as when you're looking to find yourself, some of you may get the feeling that I'm doing a performance here in different circumstances, but I don't know who I am. And this can sometimes be very confusing when you feel it very strongly. Usually people fuse with the performance, and spirituality says create a distance between yourself and your performance, because an actor can perform all sorts of roles and circumstances keep changing. According to the circumstance, you respond to that by adopting a character and performing. And then when that scene is over, then of course the wonderful opportunity is to come back to yourself. But if you don't know who yourself is, you can't. And you just bounce from performance to performance. And it creates confusion, and it also depletes your energy. So two things. One is distance, and the other is access to energy, so that you can come back to your personal power. So your personal power, your personal energy at this time in the cycle of time is very low. And so it becomes a very high priority to give time to take energy. And so what is this energy? One word for it is yoga power. So yoga power. Yoga power is an energy, it's a spiritual energy which comes from a higher source, a higher power. And what you also get is a very natural ability to be detached, so that you're using this energy to get what you need to do done, rather than what I would call physical energy. So physical energy is also like your normal willpower, your decision-making power. But when your spiritual power is low, then your physical power is also low. And you experience more like things happen to you rather than you make things happen. And we want to be in control, but sometimes we're not. And when we're not in control, then it feels destabilizing. So try this practice of going again and again to the inside, because when you're on the inside, you're in a position to feel who you are. And who you are is, in a way, very different from destiny, and it's also very different from karma. So karma is like the consequences of what you did, but it's also the impact or the scar on you of what happened to you over a long, long period of time. And these things you do are usually reactions or responses to things that you perceive, things that happen to you. And so you become something that you're not. And this is called forgetting the self or losing contact with the self. So the high priority, I think, is to look at some ways and try out and practice some of these different ways of reconnecting with your essential self. And I think a very good way to define for yourself your essential self is that it is a very pure vibration. Everyone is a spiritual being, a soul, and each soul has its own harmonious vibration, which is the defining characteristic of that being. And then from that vibration, you come into action through the body. And when the action is finished, you return back to that vibration. But the vibration is very subtle. Quite often it's impossible to really capture it because the soul is not practiced in identifying with this vibration. When you have yoga, what it means is that you are doing a two-step thing. One is you are connecting with yourself. Second is you are connecting with that higher power. And what happens with this is you get more energy. When you get more energy, your ability to process either karma or destiny is enhanced. So you have a combination of your understanding and your power. And this is very special. And over time, your understanding becomes greater and more subtle, and your power also intensifies and increases, which means you are able to do the things that start off as just theoretical, but by practicing them, they become second nature. And that second nature takes over from the first nature, you can say, of just being bombarded by the things that happen to you, the memories of those, and so on, because you say to yourself, this thing was good, this thing was bad. The spirituality says some things are pleasant, some things are unpleasant. Some things are enjoyable, some things create misery. So there's all this spectrum of feelings. And people are very, very influenced by what they feel. And these feelings can take control over you. And when you are under the influence of a feeling, you may or may not have understood what that is. So it can be very, very deceptive because you say, this is good, this is bad. There can be a very pleasant feeling due to something that's actually bad for you. And there can be a very unpleasant feeling due to something that's actually very good for you. So you have to distinguish whether something feels good and is good, or whether something feels good and is not good. So your sense of good and bad, right and wrong, needs to be processed in a much better way. So karma is all sorts of actions, thought, words, deeds, experiences, traumas, all sorts of things. These are events, things that you do, things that get done to you, and all of them have an impact, you see. Now, one thing that you do with your practice of meditation is you create a form of resilience to the impact of what's happening in the present, as well as to what happened in the past. So retroactively, You are changing your relationship and your feelings about what happened in the past, and also about things around you that are happening in the present, because you're positioning yourself in a different space, a different headspace, you can say, a different mind space. And all of this is because you're also studying about karma and destiny and your own self and a higher power. And what you know from the world is different from what you know from spiritual study. So there is a shift going on. All of this takes time, but one step at a time, you get it more and more clearly. So the destiny of the world is everything starts off absolutely beautiful, wonderful, heavenly, and over a long period of time, it slowly deteriorates because of the effect of time. Secondly, when things have deteriorated to a point where they start breaking down, that's where your reactions come in, and that's where, due to different understanding, you may engage in negative karma, and you may be the victim of negative karma from someone else directed at you. Or you may be in a general circumstance which is very distressing, which is out of your control, like you're in a war, or you're in a natural disaster, or anything that you experience as terrifying, unpleasant, confusing, or whatever, and you take that in to your being through your sense perception, and it contaminates and weakens your soul. So all these things over a long period of time have given you an angle on reality which may not be the best. And so spirituality comes along and says, here's a different angle that you can apply, and which you can apply retroactively. That means you can redefine what happened to you in the past, or what happened to all of humanity in the past, in terms of it was good or it was bad or what. Because at the present time of knowing spiritual information and having access to spiritual power, you can become what you really are from the inside, instead of becoming what the outside forces itself onto you and puts you in a false sense of self. So here you are in the middle. There's all sorts of things going on around you, and that is on the backdrop of the destiny of the world. So the next big thing that's going to happen to all people in the world is they're going to find themselves. And that's a really positive thing. Everyone is destined to find themselves, to have this connection with the essential self, and to have a connection with a higher being beyond the Supreme Soul, God, the Source, the Force. This is in your destiny. You will have this. You may have it already. You may be just working with it. And this is an energy that is extremely positive, And it's on this backdrop or background of a lot of maybe confusing or unpleasant things happening that you can perceive through your senses. So here you're looking at an expanded sense of perception. So one is sense perception, and the other is perceiving things that are not visible, that are not tangible, that are not audible, that are nothing to do with sense perception. And you perceive this with your mind. And to do it well, you need to create this distance between yourself and your sense perception. So that's a big practice right there. What is also destined is the world as we know it is in a process of monumental change. Everything about the world as we know it is gradually getting deconstructed, falling apart, and something new is arising in its place. So you have a choice. Either you can be connected with the things that are collapsing and falling apart, or you can be connected with the things that are arising and taking its place. There's big change going on in the world, and you have choice. The more you are in contact with the physical, the sense perceptions, the more your sense of whether something is going well or badly, whether it's in the West or in India or wherever, but anything that you can experience through your senses is changing, is falling apart, and something new is arising. And that new thing is arising in a very subtle way. So the more you are in your inner internalized state, the more you can upgrade your capacity for perceiving the things which are intangible. And this is going to affect your karma. So up until now, your karma has been to act on the basis of sense perception. If you think something is going well, you act accordingly. If you think something is going badly, you act accordingly. And your evaluation of what's going on is based on sense perception, which is deceptive by nature. And it will not allow you to perceive easily the things which are intangible. So you practice to be internal. And the first thing is to understand yourself. Who am I? What am I? What kind of being am I? What sort of person am I on the deep, deep inner level? And you find that you are extremely beautiful, extremely pure, extremely extraordinary, and that is so different from the messages that you're getting from the external world through your sense perception, which just reflects your physical manifestation. Your karma, when you are connected in the inside, is going to be according to that inner experience, which means it'll be wise. It'll be calculated not from the basis of perception or not from the basis of fear or selfishness or something like this, but it'll be calculated on the basis of what's logical, what's correct, impact, what's meaningful, what's significant, so that the consequences of your karma at the present time start to show themselves to you, and they're very imperceptible because they don't show themselves to you physically. They show themselves to you in much more subtle ways. So you need to be connected with your inner eye, sometimes called the third eye, to perceive these extraordinary mirrors, what they're saying to you about who you are, so that you don't give so much attention to the mirroring that you get from the external world. Now, this is a practice. And this is how you change, in a sense, change your destiny. As I said, there are these two energies going on. You could be going with sense perception and the mirrors that come from that, which are all about something false, something that reflects back to you a self that isn't actually you. And spirituality says, notice it, perceive it, recognize what is false, and recognize what is real, what is true, and then choose what you want. And of course, the wiser you are, the more you will choose something which is real and true and reflects who you are. And then your karma will be according to that. So this is a time when everything around you is falling apart. And from the inside, you are causing everything to come together in a very harmonious and beautiful way. And this is because you're making the difference between sense perception and perception from the inner eye, which is the eye of wisdom, the eye of understanding what's really going on, which is not perceivable through senses. And it is really what we call soul consciousness. So you're shifting from this material consciousness to spiritual consciousness, taking energy, and then you're seeing a destiny which is extremely positive, extremely beautiful. The restoration of absolute harmony in the world, harmony between people, harmony between humanity and nature, harmony on all sorts of different levels. And that this is coming into a more and more material manifestation. And the material, which is so invasive and bombarding you all the time, is losing its power over you. And in this transition, you're holding steady and stable and shifting yourself with that which is coming into harmony. So this is the time of spiritual evolution if you do this. If you don't do this, you will be too much under the effects of the old. So there may be some negative karmic effects that come up for payment or settlement, but at the same time, you are gaining in power. So settlement of those is easy for you. These are like little exams, little tests that you handle along the way and keep moving forward. When you don't have the spiritual accumulation of spiritual power, then these tests can block your progress and can drag you down. So you have to go with the destiny and perform karma that corresponds with that destiny, while at the same time handling consequences of the past, which is becoming progressively, you're becoming progressively more competent at that. Of course, the tests will intensify in difficulty and so on, but you keep up with it and you increase your power. You are evolving, even if all around you everything is devolving, and you keep yourself on whichever side of the line you want to be on. And obviously the best side of the line is the evolving one, the one which is leading to a very pure and powerful destiny. And you step onto that. And of course, it's a slippery road. So you can easily fall off, forget, and go back to the other. But then you wake up again and step back on the way to harmony, to light, and you intensify your experience and your resilience. So this is a matter of subtlety. I think that's important. Om Shanti. So take a moment, as long as you want, as long as you need, to turn the attention within. Just take your time to consider that I am not my body. I am not my name. I am not my biology, race, gender, religion, nationality. All that is my role, my costume. I am a being of light. You don't have to feel it. You might feel it, but especially affirm it, consider it, ponder on what you are and who you are, a pure, extraordinary, indestructible being of light, immortal. You cannot die. Your body is for a short time. You are forever. Everyone is immortal. Everyone is a being. And the being is in the body, expressing through the body. I, the soul, am light. And I am connected with a greater light beyond, the Supreme Being, Soul. From this soul, I can receive energy to restore my depleted self. And once again, come back to my original condition. Pure, peaceful, light, loving, and free. Hold that thought for a while. Let yourself be in that space. And then return back to being in the body. But don't forget who you are and what you are. Om Shanti.